Welcome to EnglishX on ICRT, brought to you by MandarinX and Vine Education Company. EnglishX is where managers learn to discuss international business topics in English and to start thinking more like a boss.
欢迎收听 ICRT EnglishX， 每周四早上由中文课和葡萄藤国际语言训练中心特别企划，让您掌握全球商业趋势。
So Alice has an English presentation coming up, and her last class she started crying.
Oh, why?
Well, she's having trouble pronouncing some words.
Okay.
And to be honest, presentation is at the end of the month, and she started studying this month.
A little bit too late.
Yeah, so it's very, very late. So she must study every day.
Okay.
So what can we do about it?
Well, that's the topic today, and
we're going to be talking about how to improve your English.
Hot topic! Improve your English as we discuss real-world problems many English students have at work.
让我们看看这礼拜有哪些热门国际商务话题。
we often get the question, how to improve your English? And this is a pretty much very loaded question. It's really big, so we're going to split up into several parts. I think it's easier to take it that way. So first off, how can we improve our speaking?
Okay, this one's I always find very funny because everyone tells me, my speaking's not good because I'm shy. And I just kind of realized that it's not really that our students are shy. They just don't want to talk to me. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
They don't want to have a conversation in English with me. They just don't want to talk to me. Maybe they don't like me. I don't know. So it's not shy.
So it's because generally speaking is often for us a big request from a lot of students. I mean, they're reading it, writing it's okay, but they just can't speak it out. And oftentimes we've in the past said it's because of a lack of confidence they might have. They don't have the confidence to speak up, or it could be a thing of shyness. Now you're saying it's not.
No. I don't think it's shyness because, like, I observe our students when they're in their peers with their groups. They talk fine. It's just when they see a foreigner, they just freeze up and don't want to talk to us.
Yeah. But they're talking fine in English or in Chinese?
In Chinese, maybe it's just English or just lack of confidence. So the first thing I would tell them is just fake it. Fake confidence. Just go up and speak and just say whatever. That's the first step, is opening your mouth. If you're not opening your mouth, you're not taking that first step.
Right. For us, it's a big part of improving English is what we call speaking time. So you need to increase the speaking time, the amount of time. Now, it is a two-way learning activity, so you can't really improve without having someone to work off of.
Exactly.
So that's the key thing, finding someone. Now, how can we find people to work with or to work off of?
There are many resources, especially if you live in Taipei. There are foreigners, there are language exchange groups, there are classes, there are teachers, there are friends, there are bosses, just even your colleagues, even if they're not foreigner. Some of them have some of them can speak English, so just speak to them in English. Don't be like, usually the stigma that I get is they're in a meeting, and if one person says something in English, everyone kind of, oh, why'd you say that in English? Don't have that attitude. If someone says something in English, make that a custom, make that normal. It's okay if they use some English vocabulary, if they start adding that in meetings and in conversations.
You got to take away the awkwardness, because a lot of times it's just the feeling of being awkward because I've never heard my colleague who I know can speak Chinese.
Yes.
Suddenly start speaking English.
Yes. Doing something like that. So finding people to communicate, finding people to speak with, because really you're not going to improve speaking by yourself.
Right.
And we can't always take classes. We can't always pay for a tutor or pay for a teacher.
There's a lot of free resources as well.
Yes. So use those. And the other thing that you must consider is when you're talking to people, they're not your English teacher.
Right.
So the people you're talking to, I tell my students, there's only one person that cares about their English ability. That's me.
That's the teacher. Right?
I'm the only one that's judging you on your English, your vocabulary, your pronunciation,
evaluating.
Your judging. I'm the only one thinking about that. But when they're in a restaurant talking to someone, the foreigner there is not judging their English. It's not evaluating their English. The person there is just wanting to have a nice conversation. So have a nice conversation with me. Don't apologize for your English. Your English is fine.
Yeah, that's another thing I would say for a lot of people here in Taiwan is because Taiwanese are so polite, very polite. But sometimes they apologize a little bit too much, especially, I hear this a lot. I'm so sorry my English isn't good. Very sorry my English. And then
it's fine.
In my mind, I wasn't even thinking about their English was not good or not. Actually, I was thinking their English is pretty good, yet they're still apologizing. So I think get out of the habit of saying sorry for it and just do it, and it'll be okay.
And also strike a balance between fluency and accuracy.
What are the differences between those two?
Fluency is like you're speaking without stopping. You just keep speaking. Accuracy is how grammatically correct you're speaking, right?
So fluency is the flow and how confident you might sound.
Yes.
And accuracy is what specific vocabulary or grammar, how your grammar is being structured.
Yes, exactly. And some of the stuff that like I've gone back and I listened to some of our previous episodes, I made 1 or 2 grammatical mistakes. But that's okay because I'm speaking fluently. I'm speaking naturally because when you are speaking naturally, mistakes happen.
So should people focus more on the fluency aspect or the accuracy aspect?
Definitely both. But when you're concentrating on speaking, it's fluency over accuracy.
So when you are with someone?
Fluency. I don't care how grammatically correct you are. I care, do I understand you? 1. And 2, are you trying to say something important to me? Are you really telling me what's in your mind? The other thing is writing. Now, everyone wants to improve their writing. And you need to realize, just like in Chinese, learning to read Chinese and learning to speak Chinese, 2 different worlds. Same thing with the English. Learning to write in English is very, very different from learning to speak in English.
Yeah, it's a different skill set. And in that case, it needs a different approach.
And the approach for writing is always simple. Keep it simple, especially at the beginning. Don't try to be over formal, or don't try to be overly formal. Don't try to be too polite.
Or use overcomplicated language or words or big words. Don't feel like you have to have the pressure to do that.
Yes. The big vocabulary, the complicated grammar, using the passive tense, the garbage has been thrown out. I mean, that sounds smart, but most of the time it's just too confusing.
Right,
be more direct, be more clear.
So direct sentences, not the passive sentence.
Yes, active voice over passive voice. Be more clear in what you're saying. Try to avoid complicated vocabulary, complicated grammar.
Yeah.
So some messages I always get from people is, a gentle reminder.
Or a kindly please.
Can you kindly please?
Right.
And that's kind of silly. How can you have a gentle reminder? Can you have an angry reminder? Can you, it's like, can you politely send me this document? Well, how do I politely press the button?
Yeah, it's a thing where the language or the culture is kind of a mix, where because Taiwanese are, again, we said, very polite, which is in life generally a very good thing.
Yeah.
But with doing business-to-business emailing, for example, it can come off a little awkward. So you want to avoid sounding overly polite.
You just want to be, I always tell my students, just make sure you're correct first, and then you can add all the formalities and everything to it.
And with writing?
Yeah, and with writing.
Yeah.
Because it's a two-way street, right? It's always, I'm writing and you're reading, so it's back and forth. So it's another one of those things where you can't practice on your own. You have to practice with someone in groups. You have even professional writers. They have other people proofread their work. Like you need to have that someone helping you with this.
Right. You need peer review. You need proofreading, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't write things on your own. Like let's say you like writing a blog or writing something like that. You can, but then you're going to get feedback, right? Or you want somebody to take a look at that before you actually publish it.
Yeah, ask for feedback too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, how about in terms of reading? How do we improve reading skills?
This one's always been difficult to me because anytime I'm reading in English, I get sleepy. Or anytime I'm reading in general, I just get sleepy. So it's very hard for me to concentrate on reading. And many times I'll be reading a book, and then after 3 pages, I'll be like, wait, what did I just read? Just because I don't really pay attention when I'm reading. That's just my problem.
Do you speed read?
Maybe because I speed read. But one thing that has helped me is always having a pen with me. So I always take notes as I'm reading. That forces me to concentrate on what's going on. Things like underlining words I don't know, circling things that I feel are important, leaving myself notes on the margins of the page. So taking notes definitely helps me.
Yeah, for me, the thing that I like to use now is I like to use, when I read ebooks now. What I love about ebooks, like the Kindle reader.
It remembers your spot.
It remembers my spot like a bookmark, but they have a lot of cool functions such as highlighting those words.
Yeah.
And top of that,
instant dictionary.
Yeah, and instant dictionary. So I just click on the word and it would tell me the definition. So it saves me time.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people actually prefer the smell, the touch.
the
of a
texture
real
of
book.
books, yeah.
And I get that too, but it loses a lot of the kind of convenience.
There are a lot of resources out there to improve your reading. Reading with books at the libraries, Kindles, ebooks on your phone, news websites, PDFs. There's lots of stuff out there. So just read more.
And it's crucial you find reading that's targeted at your level. So if you're a
Exactly.
beginner learner, don't jump right into a novel or reading like The Economist.
Well, that's funny that you mentioned The Economist, because I have some students that work in finance,
Right.
and that's their goal. They want to be able to read stuff like The Economist. But even native speakers will tell you that The Economist is written in like a book novel type form.
Very academic.
Very academic and very like just way too high level. So if you're just starting to learn English and your goal is The Economist, read to your level. Read some newspaper articles before you move on to Bloomberg and The Economist.
Build up from scratch, or build up from where you understand, let's say 70-80% of what you're reading. Start with material. Start with a material where you can understand most of it before moving up to it.
Otherwise, you'll just kill your own confidence, because you're like, oh, I can't read
Yeah, and then you lose motivation, and then in the end you stop reading.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of things we can do, such as, let's say, joining a book club. That might be helpful, because not only do you read, you can actually discuss with others. That will help your overall comprehension. Or you can think of what people discuss. It can go a little deeper.
Or even if you don't want to join a book club, just read a book, share it with a friend, and get their feedback on it and discuss it. Yeah.
Now, I do know most people don't read full books nowadays. They tend to read clippings or short articles or things that we get on social media, right? Which is fine too, because that's another way to read. A way I learned to read when I was a kid was comic books. That was my foray, my entry into learning to read, and also increasing my vocabulary level.
But one of the problems now with sharing articles and things like that on the internet is a lot of those are in video form now. If you notice, a lot of them are like, instead of reading it, there's someone who's reading it to you.
Right, or they do the summary version.
Yeah.
Right? Or in when we were, in my time, it was called the dummy version. Right? They do a short.
Dummies.
Yeah.
So force yourself to read. That's the only way you're going to improve that. Yes. Then that goes in, the videos also jump into listening. How do we improve our listening? Please turn off those subtitles. 90% of the time when my students say, well, how do I improve my listening? I watch HBO, I watch TLC, and I tell them, I promise you, you're not really watching it. You're not really listening to it. You're reading it, because I can turn off the volume and you'll still be watching it.
Well, that's an issue if you're watching TV, because they cannot turn subtitles off.
You can put tape over it. You can put a book in front of it. There are things you can do. But even then, if it's not television, if it's like Netflix or something, or YouTube or TED Talks, they know that CC button. They turn that on.
Well, they do.
Yeah.
Now, I would slightly disagree. You're saying no subtitles whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
I am, for me, I would say change subtitles to English, at least.
Okay.
In the beginning. If you're a beginner learner or even a low intermediate learner, go with the transcripts, go with subtitles, because it helps us to kind of slow it down. The listening can sometimes be too fast. So
But they have a speed button. You can play it at 50%.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, you can.
You mean on Netflix? No, they don't.
On Netflix you don't, but on YouTube you do.
Yeah, and if you're using, let's say, for me, I often tell my students, I recommend my students to listen to podcasts. Podcasts just like ours, or other podcasts geared towards their own personal interests. And with podcasts, especially with Apple Podcasts, you can slow down the speed in half.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that really does help. But you can also, on podcasts, find material geared to your language. They have things such as VOA. I think VOA is a simple, it's called Voice of America, simple, easy to learn articles with transcripts, written transcripts you can print out.
NPR also has that too.
NPR also has that. TED Talk also have those. So,
but now my students know that TED Talk also have the Chinese versions.
Yeah. So I mean, So
Yeah.
you want to avoid the Chinese version.
I want to avoid the Chinese as much as possible. Yes.
Yeah, for learning.
For learning. So, what if you are studying English just to take a test?
This is often a very big request. Test taking is a big part of, I guess, the culture here.
Yeah.
despite what we might feel about it, we don't feel tests always measure someone's English ability, but it's unavoidable. So how can we prep or prepare for the right exam? Right.
Well, know what exam you're trying to take and know the purpose of the exam. For example, TOEFL is about studying in a university, in an English-speaking university.
Right.
So everything will be geared towards academics, writing reports, reading, listening to professors speak, listening to lectures.
Right. Whereas TOEIC is more focused on, let's say, the workplace environment.
Yes, meetings, presentations, describing charts and graphs.
So in that case, it kind of tells you what type of vocabulary we should learn, what grammar we should focus on.
Yeah, and there are lots of great test prep centers in Taiwan.
Yeah.
They can teach you the strategies and the timing and all that you need for it.
Right, and a lot of times you could prepare on your own. You go to the Chen Esli bookstore, Elite bookstore, and get a test prep book. There are test prep books that both have Chinese and English. There are also ones that are only in English.
Yes. They keep changing these tests every year. They update them. Always know if you're looking for free online resources, always double check first the format of the exam and then double check how to learn, because some websites I know are dated because some of the exam type questions they don't ask anymore. So always check for that.
And do practice tests.
Lots of practice tests.
Do a lot of practice tests, and hopefully you do have someone who can help you grade it.
Okay. Finally, variety. So the final piece of advice for improving your English that I would say is you really do need variety. Conversation isn't one-dimensional. It's never like you find in a conversation book. Conversations are never, hello, how are you? Fine, thank you. And you? I'm doing good. Yeah. How's your mom?
A lot of beginner books have these skits where A says this, B says that. Now,
life is not like that.
Right.
No.
When people actually go out into the real world, they find that their conversations don't quite follow what the skit prepared them for.
Yes. So what I like to do is Ford. F-O-R-D. Actually, in Taiwan, I like to do F-F-O-R-D. Ford is just, what you need to do is practice topics. Don't practice skits and role plays of what to say. Practice talking about a variety of different topics. So the first topic that all Taiwanese people love to talk about, I guess everyone likes to talk about, is food. Talk about food. Learn to discuss food.
Make questions about food.
Making questions, yes, definitely. As you remember one of our previous episodes where I said, the more questions you ask, the more I can help you. Exactly. So ask questions about food, talk about food. Depending on the culture, the other F would be family. Discuss family.
Yeah. In some cultures, family is not okay to discuss, at least not initially until you get to know someone better. But general family questions might be okay. Questions such as, where are you from, actually?
Where you're from.
Yeah, that's not a very specific family question, but
generally, and what the how many members in your family? What do you and your family like to do on weekends?
Yeah, but this question should avoid, are you married?
Yes,
right.
Yes. No marriage questions. Yeah. The other thing, O, occupation, talking about your job. What do you do? Where do you work? What are you responsible for? Those are some things that you should know how to talk about. F-O-R-R, recreation. What things do you like to do for fun? What are your hobbies? Watching TV and listening to music is not a hobby. It's something everyone does. So that's kind of, say something interesting about you, not just watching TV and listening to music. Sleeping. I get a lot of sleeping too.
Sleeping as a hobby? It's hard to, because the thing with hobbies is, for me, I feel hobby is something you can also build up.
Well, this is how you make friends, right? You're both interested in one thing, and then you discuss that thing.
Yeah, there's not a lot to discuss if you're talking about sleeping.
My hobby's sleeping.
Yeah, it's hard to discuss.
Yeah,
a lot more. Yeah.
So find things that you're interested in and talk about that. We get lots of surprises. We had one student, for example, that we've taught her for many years, and then out of the blue one day she mentions that she's a competitive ballroom dancer.
Yeah, that super surprised me, but it was awesome.
It was an amazing surprise, but I was like, what? Like, you've never mentioned this before. We had a flamenco dancer too.
Oh, really?
Never.
And it's and also hard to imagine because of what they do in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Because some of them are like a manager.
Belly dancer. We had a belly dancer too.
Yeah, we did. We had a belly dancer, and then like who works in purchasing.
Yeah.
So that for me was so much more interesting to hear.
Yeah, that's something that they can open conversation with and get lots of, in a social setting, they could be the center of the party because everyone could be like, really, you do that? And they can talk about that.
And it totally differentiates
you from others.
Yeah. So
definitely.
it avoids the normal conversation.
Yeah. And the final one, the dreams. Talk about your dreams. What you would do if you could retire right now.
So not your sleeping dreams.
Not your sleeping dreams. No. Your dreams. Just if you could live anywhere in the world, a beach house or, a house in the mountains, a cabin in the woods,
Right.
Just talk about your dreams, things that you wish, things that you want.
Your aspirations.
And then you can find that you will find that you'll meet some people that also think similarly like you. And you can have great conversations about that.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that's what we want. We want to have a great conversation with you. So practice discussing a variety of situations.
And I would like to add something else is with regards to variety. I would say talk to a variety of people.
Yes.
Right. Not just American accented people or Australian or British or what we consider Western English speaking, but there are English speakers from all over. There are Korean English speakers, Singaporean English speakers, Indian English speakers.
Yeah.
Right. So
now we often get requests for American accented teachers, but maybe 90% of our students, their bosses are not American.
Right.
They're, British, they're, Chinese, they're Australian, New Zealand, they're from a variety of places. They're French, German, So practice a variety of accents too.
Yeah, and that also allows you to get an insider perspective from different cultures and different types of people and how they interact. Because even then, for us, meeting people from Europe or something is different. Even though we all speak English fairly well, it's still different to get different to see what they think or how they feel about a certain topic.
Exactly. Hashtag like a boss. Each week we talk to real-world bosses to find out their secrets for success.
现在到了每周 EnglishX 访问时间。
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm very happy to be here at the Affiliate High School of National Genji University with the principal of the school, Professor Frank Chen. And I'm also with me is Amy Zhang. She's in charge of the brand new International Student Department here. So please, let's talk English, okay?
Sure.
Good. Okay, so what are some problems that your students are facing in trying to learn English?
I think when they encounter in learning English, they don't know how to apply to daily life situations. They know a lot of vocabulary, but they do not know how to use them properly. So I think there's a difference between proper use and how to use those words conversationally.
Conversationally, like talking to foreigners,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So with that, you're trying to hire more foreigner teachers, or how are you trying to fix that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We think
okay.
more foreign teacher can help to improve this kind of situations.
Okay. Now, according to EF, Taiwan's English ranking is lower and lower each year. Why do you think that's happening?
I think if you take our school, for example, the English is pretty good. But we do understand people in general, they don't know how to practice their English into daily life.
Yeah, I know one of the things about your high school is every time I walk down the hallway, many of the kids will say hello to me and talk to me. So their English understanding is fairly well.
Yes.
But how about on a national level?
You mean the whole Taiwan
Yes,
situation?
all of Taiwan.
I think we learned it from pretty young age, but we don't have much chance to practice it, and then we only do it for exams.
Okay. So how can parents help? What is something parents need to understand about their child's education?
I think parents need to know that the skills they learn is not the future world thing. So they need to know that students now facing how to search the information and then how to organize it into knowledge.
Oh, because technology, right? So maybe
Yes.
there's a gap there between
Yeah.
it. Now, many of the struggles that I find is many parents are set on sending their kids to bushibans.
Yes.
Right? How do you guys feel about the bushiban system here in Taiwan?
I think Bushiban more guided by the entrance examinations. They do lots of practicing but it's not facing real world.
Okay. Okay. So maybe that's one of the things that you're trying to incorporate here in this new program, this international program. You want to incorporate some real world situations for our students. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Great. 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 So, how many hours a week should a student study for each subject?
I think that's about how to learn it effectively. Generally speaking, it's hard to concentrate for a long time. But I think each subject, 3 hours is enough.
3 hours
but
is enough?
Yeah, it also depends on students' interests.
For the new international program, I know you have 4 specific foreign teachers that you hired for. What are the 4 subjects?
Mainly it's English, science, and math, and humanity.
Okay, so humanities, English, science, and math. Okay, and those will all be done using English education.
Yeah.
Okay, great, great. So Principal Chen, thank you so much for your time over here. So I would like to know, why is it that you're trying to implement this program here?
We plan to set up an international department and a new class for each grade from 7th and for,
From 7th?
From 7th to 12th grades for a total of 6 classes.
Okay, okay. So 7th to 12th grade, right?
Yeah.
So like end of junior high school and senior high school.
Yeah.
And how many grades? How many classes?
6 classes.
A total of 6 classes.
Yeah.
Okay, all in English.
Yeah.
All right, that's excellent. That's excellent. How will having more foreign teachers help?
I think they come from multiple cultural backgrounds, so they can teach differently than the local teachers.
Okay. So just having a variety of different cultures teaching the students. Okay,
Yes.
that will help. Right. But having a variety of cultures also brings in some problems. What are some challenges in bringing bilingual teachers here?
I think when we recruit teachers, they do things very straightforward.
Okay.
Our local teacher, we are more like want to friendly negotiate something. They try to just get to the point to ask what's their rights,
Okay. Okay.
about their salary.
Yeah. So their questions are a bit more direct.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. You're bringing this program in here to this high school. What are some challenges in starting a bilingual education program?
Teacher recruitment and enrollment are bigger challenges. There are also 2 very different systems in the school, which leads to the challenge of integration and cooperation.
Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing the results of this. It sounds very, very exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. How can parents know more about your school and how to get their students, how to get their children into this program?
Parents, you can go to website to understand our enrollment.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mailbag.
Do you have a question? Well, we have answers. Email us at englishx@vinec.com or on the web at vinec.com/englishx.
有任何问题，欢迎发送到 EnglishX@vineec.com 或者到葡萄藤网站 vineec.com/EnglishX.
We have a question from Katrina
From Taipei.
from Taipei. Yes. Katrina asks, how do you open a conversation with a foreigner?
Earlier today, we were discussing Ford, food, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Ask one of those questions. But make sure your questions are WH questions. Who, what, where, when, why, how. Do not ask yes or no questions because you get the danger of them saying no. And then conversation's over.
Yeah, it's really hard because you wanted to follow up with another question if they said yes. But again, it's...
No will just lead to awkward silence.
It's a conversation killer.
Yes. Second question we got from Kelly, also from Taipei. What do you do when someone asks you a question and you know the answer, but you just can't say it in English?
Okay, thanks, Kelly. Well, so why can't I say it in English?
Most of the time it's just they don't have the vocabulary to say it.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Right?
So
they understand it and they want to say something, they just don't have the vocabulary for it. you would be surprised that you can actually explain what you're trying to say without having all the vocabulary necessary. So maybe, for example, you don't know how to say computer, right? So, that thing that you write email on. Okay. So then computer, yes. So
for a lot of our beginner students, because they don't have a lot of vocabulary knowledge, how do we present language without translating it or using Chinese? Because we know a lot of places, they just give you the Chinese definition and then, I know computer, 电脑. Then I figured that out easy. But then they might remember that, but there's so many more words that if you're just using translation as a method of trying to remember or memorize words, it's not long-term, right? So you want to build those connections with other
like a word map.
Like a word map in your head. Also, there's things like body language, there's pictures, there's a lot of things you can use, especially at the beginning level.
Yeah. So like earlier, like when I said, those that are listening on the radio, when I said radio, my fingers went like as if I was typing. Do something like that. Yeah.
So Kelly, if you get a question and you know how to answer it, but you don't know what to say specifically because you're looking for the exact word, don't look for the exact word. Try the words you already know, the simpler words, and then find a kind of roundabout way to express what you really want to say.
For example, Kelly, I know that in your office, you probably have something that you put coffee in, right? What is that? Now, everyone would always say cup, right? It's a cup. But is it really a cup? Because it has a handle. It's made out of something harder, maybe porcelain, right? So it's actually a mug. But even if you say my cup, we still know what you mean. Right. Or maybe it's one of those travel mugs, or maybe it's a tumbler.
Or a thermos style.
A thermos, yeah. There are many ways to describe that thing that you put your coffee in. But if you just say cup, we're going to know what you mean. Because, again, the purpose is having a conversation with you, not testing your English vocabulary ability. Last one.
Final question. They ask, how can I find an English-speaking job here in Taiwan, for example? This comes from Winnie in Taipei.
Okay. Now, I assume Winnie probably works in an international company. That's the first thing that people think of. If I work for an international company, I'll be more in touch with foreigners and speak English. But actually, a lot of international companies generally operate day-to-day business in Chinese also.
Right.
So if you do find an international company to work for and they hire you, chances are you may or may not use English.
Okay. So what jobs here in Taiwan you think will definitely be able to use English?
Anything that deals directly with foreigners, specifically sales. If you work in sales, especially international sales, that can put you a lot in touch with foreigners.
Okay. Product management.
Project management.
Purchasing, logistics. They often have to contact overseas.
Yeah. So definitely in the interview process, ask that question. How much English will I use? And say that that's an interest when you're talking to either your headhunter or the HR manager.
Okay.
If that's a priority for you, make sure to say that.
Yeah. I think that's actually a good question to ask. What was the question again?
How can I find an English-speaking job?
No, the question that they should ask the HR person.
How much English does this position require me to use?
How much English does this position require me? That's a great question to ask in the interview.
Yes. Get inspired. Here are some quotes to help you think more like a boss.
现在来讨论学习动机。
Our first quote is from a Chinese proverb. So it's probably translated, right? So I'm not sure how exact it will be. The Chinese proverb states, quote, learning is like rowing upstream. Not to advance is to drop back. So if you're rowing a boat, but against the water, right, you kind of fall back unless, once you stop rowing.
Yeah.
So if you keep rowing, you can kind of slowly move forward against what we call it, against the
stream.
Against the stream, against the tide. But as soon as you stop rowing, you're going to be pulled back. So I think this relates a lot to English, for example. You got to keep practicing, got to keep rowing and make those minor, small baby steps and just slowly get upstream. But as soon as you stop, as soon as you take a break, or if you're not using it often, and it's like you're going to fall back. And we see this a lot with our own students because sometimes, again, our students are very busy. So we totally understand that. but oftentimes they might go on a business trip for 1 or 2 weeks. And once they get back, they have a personal family vacation for another week. After that, the day of the class, they had a meeting.
Yeah.
So they miss a whole month of classes. And the next class they have, they're completely rusty.
Yeah.
It feels like they've regressed.
Yeah. So keep practicing, keep doing, learning a language, learning anything. If you don't keep at it, you're gonna lose that skill, lose that ability.
Yeah,
little by
build
little.
consistency, keep rowing. That means, so even if you are on a business trip or if you are overseas or on vacation, you got to still find ways to put English into your environment and use it almost, if you can, use it daily.
Yeah, this is so true. I went back home to Bolivia and,
How was your Spanish?
Oh my God, the first week was tough because it's just a lot of stuff I just forgot how to say. I was like, how do you say that? How do you say that? I was rusty. It took a while for me to get back into the swing of things and start speaking Spanish completely fluently. So keep practicing. My quote is, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Basically, have some confidence and, prepare. You have a test coming up. Don't be like Alice and wait until the last month and say, oh, I need to do this. Don't procrastinate. Know that something's coming up and prepare for it. So you will encounter foreigners. If you speak English and you want to improve your English, you will talk to foreigners. So you should already prepare, if I encounter a foreigner, what questions can I ask him? Don't just start preparing for the question the second there's a foreigner, I'm gonna have to talk to him. Don't do that. Have some questions already prepared. Questions about food, occupation, recreation, dreams, your family. Have questions like that already prepared. So when you do encounter a foreigner or when you do need to speak English, you're ready, right? Don't wait until the last second.
Yeah, like anything in life, learning a language is a skill. And same thing if it's a cooking or whatever other skill, you need to have good preparation and lots of practice.
Yeah. So even if you have a presentation coming up, or even if you don't have a presentation coming up, practice presentations, because one day your boss will ask you to give an English presentation and you need to be ready. Fast words. Let's discuss some new words and expressions so we can be more like a boss.
让我们回顾一下今天有哪些重点单字跟片语。
All right. So we got some words here. You go first.
Okay, I have no idea what this. Okay, the first phrase we have is a picture is worth 1,000 words. A picture is worth 1,000 words.
So basically, use visuals, use images. Sometimes that can explain a lot more, especially if you're in sales, especially if you're trying to convince someone of something. When you're trying to reach someone at an emotional level, when you explain things, they can kind of get it, but if you have some visuals, some images to back up what you're doing, it will really help. A picture is worth 1,000 words.
Okay, so like in a presentation on a PowerPoint slide, sometimes using the image can be just as powerful as writing 10 bullet points.
Or charts. Using a chart, you can express some very, very complex ideas using charts. I know we use a lot of radio charts to express our teachers' abilities instead of telling a student how our teachers' skills and backgrounds. We have charts that explain it. So definitely, pictures worth 1,000 words. A bad apple. I like this expression. A bad apple. Basically, think of everyone is good except for one person. And that ruins everything for everyone. So maybe you have a team of 5 people, very talented designers, and then you add one more person, and that person not good. That brings everyone down. So we call this one the bad apple.
Have we ever had a bad apple work for us?
No comment. Yes.
Yeah, and it does impact, let's say, the morale. The environment of the workplace. It moves things slower, right? And it kind of works against
what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
This can happen too if you're a big company and you have multiple products. Maybe you have 5 really good products, but then you introduce this one new product and it's total garbage. But then that brings they made this, and then that can bring everything down.
Next word, a snowball effect. So these are situations or events where they keep going and they start building momentum and getting faster and faster, and until it gets to a size that maybe is a little harder to control, or it gets to a speed where you can't slow down. So I guess
out of control, something that gets completely out of control. So we call that a snowball effect.
So something, it could be, for example, that one bad apple did some bad activity or something that works against the company. And that one little thing, maybe it didn't seem like such a big deal, but over time, a lot of those little problems will build up until it makes it a really big problem. So
and then he tries deleting computer files.
Yeah, and that's a snowball
documents. Effect. Yes. All right. A rising tide lifts all boats. This one's great for all you finance people out there. Think of the economy, right? The economy is like the water. If the economy is rising, all boats will be lifted. So if the economy is good, everyone benefits. If the economy is bad, we all sink. So a rising tide lifts all boats. The presidential election's coming up here in Taiwan. So I hope they make education and economy a big priority so they can raise the tide here in Taiwan.
All right, good example. Next word is a penny saved is a penny earned. A penny saved is a penny earned. This means the money that you save today, you can spend later in life. Just a phrase that means save money. Doesn't mean you need to save a lot. You can just save with, just start with a little bit. You can
start
save
with $1, save it.
Yeah, equi, and then save another equi. You save equi every day of the year. You got 300, right?
Yeah.
300. So that's like you can have enough for 2 good lunch boxes.
The money you save today, you can spend it later. So don't be wasteful.
Don't be
save
wasteful.
Money. Yes.
Yeah. Be cost conscious. Be thrifty.
Cost conscious.
Yeah, be thrifty and save money. And I know this actually works very well with Chinese culture because my parents are also
cost conscious.
Very, very, very cost conscious, very thrifty. They never really spent on themselves. They saved and saved and saved.
The negative way to say this is stingy. The positive way to say this is cost conscious.
I think thrifty is not that bad. To say somebody's thrifty.
Not that bad. Yeah, he's thrifty. So that brings us to the end of our program. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube or you can download the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, everywhere you get your podcast from. All right, thank you.
Thank you.